Okay, welcome everybody to another edition of the Phya Academy video newsletter. This week we're continuing our discussion into accountability. Hey everybody, always great to see you and some new faces here. Welcome. Now this is a kind of a funny lesson to get back into talking about accountability, especially since I was unable to deliver this video last week due to power outages, due to lost internet, windstorms. I'm also in my marking season, so I've been grading papers about 10 hours a day for 3 weeks. So the brain's a little bit mushy in that sense. But I think that that's a really great example for the lesson that I want to draw out from athletic history, talking about accountability, and particularly this notion of accountability in training, right? Because we all understand in athletics, right, it's preparation that makes the champion, right? How you prepare matters. Like what you do behind the scenes matters most for when you need to go out and perform. And we often think about preparation, training, and in athletics, that's a fully faceted kind of training, right? Physical training, mental training, strategic, intellectual training, spiritual training, right? All of that preparation we like to think is connected to the outcome. It's to make sure that we win the contest, that we win the competition, that we're not losers in that sense. But I really think that when we're talking about accountability in an athletic sense, what we're talking about is vulnerability. And if you need if you want a kind of a refresher on that, go back, click the link in the email, go back and get onto the playlist and go check out Accountability 1 and Accountability 2, where we talked about Derek Redmond, right, the sprinter who pulls up lame in the 1992 Barcelona Olympics, right, with his hamstring, and then basically limps around the track to finish. And then Carey Price in Accountability 2, talking about the burdens of leadership and taking on too much, and when it's important to step back and walk away. And so definitely go back and check out those ones, because this idea of vulnerability through accountability means that what we really should be aspiring towards is to allow ourselves to jump over the failures, right? That's what accountability in training allows us to do in preparation, right? Because when we approach the challenge, whatever challenge that is, whether that's a physical challenge through sport or maybe a difficult moral, intellectual, or spiritual challenge, if you approach the challenge with the best intention and your best effort, then you will never lose. And with that intention and effort comes preparation and training. And when we've trained our hardest, when we've prepared to the best of our ability, we can accept the outcome. Because the outcome is not to win or lose, right? The failure of sport isn't about winning or losing. The failure in sport is refusing to aim at our best potential. It's refusing to swing the bat. It's refusing to put yourself out there. And so in our training, we can act day to day in a way that means we're going to win no matter what happens on competition day. And it's funny, I've got a couple of interesting examples to draw out these lessons. I picked perhaps one of the most victorious athletes of the 20th century, Mr. Dan Gable, one of the most legendary wrestlers. And the reason I picked him today was because of his ferocity in training. And this is a man who had some extraordinary adversity, some tragic elements in his personal life. When he was a young boy starting in wrestling, his older sister was tragically raped and murdered. And this is just this is horrifying. I mean, this is a horrifying situation for anybody to have to deal with, a close family member taken in such a fashion. And he really threw himself into his wrestling. And there's so many great and powerful quotes in sport, but if you're talking about process and training and this notion of a positive out of a negative, or accountability in ourselves as a way to deal with the adversity of the world, like this quote is just it. The more you can settle into focusing on what you have and what you would like to do and where you want to go, positive point of view, the quicker things turn around and positive things start to happen. So that's that idea of accountability in training, our best intention, our best effort. And Dan Gable was legendary, 2-a-days, just training. When he was out on the road, he'd be doing pull-ups and on the cots and the bunk beds and push-ups in his room. He was just a non-stop machine when it came to training, and he was able to compile one of the most unbelievable records in sport during his prep and college wrestling career. So high school and college, he was 181-1. 117-1 at Iowa State University. His only defeat came in the NCAA finals in his senior year. So his last match was the one that he lost, and you could just imagine the kind of a bitter taste in his mouth. But think about the accountability of his preparation, of his training, and of all the victories he's had. So he loses that final match, and then what does he say about it? Then I got good. So this is a guy who just went 117-1 in college. He's like, well, I wasn't really that good. He used that he used that fire to go to the 1972 Munich Olympics and put on one of the greatest performances maybe of any Olympian in any event. In the entire competition, right? He's a gold medalist, and you can see his gold medal here. He wasn't even scored upon in wrestling, so he didn't concede a single point. He didn't concede a single takedown in any of his matches. And this is even more impressive because the Soviets were gunning for him, right? They wanted to take him out. They didn't even get a point off the guy. It's, I mean, it's incredible. But it's that intensity of training, right? And a quote, the obvious goals were there. State champion, NCAA champion, Olympic champion. To get there, I had to set an everyday goal, which was to push myself to exhaustion. Or, in other words, to work so hard in practice that someone would have to carry me off the mat. So for him, it was all about the training. And he became one of the most decorated coaches in NCAA history, coaching at Iowa, winning, I think it was 9 straight consecutive titles. And he produced All-Americas, national champions, conference champions, like you name it. And what was he the most proud of? The fact that he had only missed one practice as a coach in, I think, his 17-year career. I might be wrong on how long it was, but might be longer than that. Decades, right? We're talking about decades of coaching. Miss one practice, and that's what he was the most proud about. It wasn't the wins, it was fidelity and accountability to the process. And that's what allows a champion, somebody who does succeed, to continue to succeed over and over again, because they have that accountability to themselves. And we can go back in ancient Greek athletic history to see the reverse example. So if Dan Gable is one of the most celebrated wrestlers, maybe his contemporary would be Milo of Croton in the ancient world. Milo was the legend, the most decorated ancient athlete, 10-time Olympic champion. But Milo let his training go to waste, in a sense. So he also has a famous mythology and a legend about his training. He's seen as a descendant of Hercules, and so the legend goes that he grew so strong because he copied Hercules by carrying a young bull, like a young bull on his shoulders when he was young, and then as he grew older, the bull grew into an adult, and then he sacrificed the bull and ate it in one day. And this gave him his legendary strength. Milo even fought wars for his home city of Croton in the lion skin and club of Hercules. If you can imagine out on the battlefield wearing essentially like a costume for a superhero, that's what Milo did. And he actually was victorious and led his city to many victories in war as well. However, he has what is also known as a legendary downfall. So this is an incredible 19th century painting of Milo and his tragic death. So one day while walking through the woods, Milo comes across a tree stump where there's a wedge. And because he believes he is so strong, right, he doesn't have that accountability to training anymore, being a victorious champion, being a successful general. And he just assumes that he's strong enough to get this wedge out and that he can display his power, his strength even further. Sorry, Milo. Puts his hands in the wedge and oops, he gets stuck. Now he can't get out. Now, the story goes that he's devoured and eaten alive by wolves. In this artistic representation, it's a lion. Sometimes it's a lion. Sometimes it's wolves. It doesn't matter. What we need to know is that Milo's eaten alive, and it's an act basically for his lack of humility, right? The inability to display the humility that properly accompanies training, right? And that's where the accountability comes in. He wasn't accountable to the humbling nature of the preparation that leads us to greatness, right? He was lured by his contemporary greatness, not like Dan Gable, right? Dan Gable could have said on that final loss, well, I already just won 117 in a row. What does it matter if I just lost one? To him, right? That was a wake-up call to actually take things seriously. But for many champion athletes, and like Milo's example, right? Once we attain that success, we think that we've made it. And the ancient Greeks warned about this, right? Especially for athletic victories and competitions, that it is fleeting grace, right? And this was symbolized by the prize that was given out at Olympia, right? An olive wreath, a natural product, something that is glorious for a day, but then over time and over a quick period of time disintegrates. I think my daughter's coming. Let's see how this works. So what does it all mean? Like, because we want to be able to apply these lessons in our own lives. We want to be able to be accountable to ourselves. The hard brings accountability, right? The hard prepares us for the triumph, but the triumph sets us up to lessen the accountability we place on ourselves, because once we reach a certain amount of success, once we reach a level, a plateau, we can get comfortable. And if there's one thing that's not comfortable, it's training. It's athletic training. It is pushing your body, doing things you don't want to do, getting stronger, getting faster, more endurance, more agility, more balance. Whatever it is you're striving towards in terms of your physical abilities, we all know that it's very difficult. It's very humbling. There are setbacks. We set goals. We fail to reach them. And so what we really have to think about is this idea of the paradox, right? The paradox of success. The more we train hard for success, the more we're likely to achieve it. The more we achieve success, the more likely we are to forget about the hard training that has brought us to those successful parts. And the ancient Greek ideal in a lot of senses is balance, right? Arete, the balance between body and mind, the most excellent virtue, the thing that is displayed through athletic performance and celebrated in athletic competition. This idea of balancing out wants and needs, this idea of balancing out emotions and reason. So when we're thinking about accountability and training, maybe it's this notion of balance and success. When we reach success, we don't want to brush off success. We want to celebrate success. We want to revel in success, right? That is a way for us to be accountability to that's a way for us to be accountable. That's a way for us to be accountable to the hard road that we've just traveled in order to achieve success. However, we must balance that with an understanding that we must continue to be humble. We must continue to be on the path towards striving, as opposed to stopping along the way. And I think that the Dan Gable example and the Milo example really highlight this importance of accountability and training taking precedence over accountability of outcome. Because when we focus on the journey, we realize that we're actually never finished. And I think that's a great lesson for all of us. Okay. Merry Christmas, everybody. Happy holidays. I'll see you before the new year with another lesson. Take care and go watch those previous videos if you get a chance. And I'll see you in the next one, everybody.